This is the Cambridge Audio Alva TT2. It turned up for review, and it's a very interesting piece of kit. I mean, obviously, it is a record player. It does all the things that you would expect a record player to do, but it does it in a very Cambridge Audio way. Now, a little bit of background. Cambridge Audio has been around in two distinct forms. It was originally created in the 1960s, and it between about 68 and late 80s, it produced a number of pieces of kit. I think I'm right in saying the first British-made CD player. If it wasn't the first British made CD player, it was very, very early on in that, this gigantic 3-box thing, imaginatively called the CD1. Unfortunately, the company went into receivership, and it was purchased by essentially an offshoot of the Richer Sounds operation. Now, originally, the aspirations for Cambridge Audio were pretty limited. It was there to provide a small set of products for Richer Sounds that they didn't have to compete with other retailers on price for. But like all good things, it grew. They got some very talented engineers in. They've had a number of people over the years who have, despite having very different approaches in themselves, they've been quite consistent at taking quite high technology concepts and delivering them at sensible price points in relatively user-friendly ways. And as you might imagine, a record player, it's hard to make that a high technology concept. It's a record player. But they have very successfully done the things that they feel matter in the Alva TT2. So what you get is a smartly finished turntable that is direct drive rather than belt drive, which is relatively unusual. It's not unheard of, but there are fewer direct drive turntables than there are belt drive ones, which means that the motor acts directly on the platter itself, which in theory allows for extremely good pitch stability and making sure that nothing sort of has that slight sort of unpleasant wobble as sustained notes are playing. And then it allows for immediate and simple speed selection between 33 and 45. What they've then done is combined that with a little bit of interesting technology and then an enormous helping of convenience. So within the chassis of the Alva TT2 is a phono stage. So the signal from a record player is feeble and needs to be boosted before it makes it to your amplifier. Cambridge Audio has gone and fitted one internally. And then because they're Cambridge Audio and they fancy doing something a little bit more than that, you can also output the signal from this phono stage over a decent quality Bluetooth output to a Bluetooth speaker. Now, that isn't much use in the same room. I mean, I've done it, I've tested it works, and it sounds surprisingly good. But where it actually comes into its own, the range on this Bluetooth transmitter is pretty good. So if you were listening to music and actually you wandered off into the kitchen to get some stuff prepped, you can, if you've prepped and paired your Bluetooth speaker in the kitchen, it will quite happily then receive the signal from the Alva, and it sounds very good. I mean, the limitations are that you're still going to have to wander back and change the side or indeed the record when you've run out of music. But it's one of those things where you may or may not make great use of it, but it has been done quite nicely and quite impressively. The other thing that they've done is, as standard, your Alva TT2 comes with a cartridge, the actual needle and generator arrangement that sits on the end of the arm. Cambridge Audio's designed, or I suppose to be honest, they've worked with another company to produce something called the Alva MC, imaginatively enough. Now, the clue there is that this isn't like most affordable cartridges. It's a moving coil design, which instead of moving a magnet inside a sort of an array, generates a signal by moving a coil against the same arrangement, which it produces a lower output. By making the coil as efficient as possible, this cartridge is able to work into a normal moving magnet phono stage, or indeed obviously the one that's inside the Cambridge Audio. But this cartridge is really good. I mean, really, really good. You can buy them. Cambridge Audio will grudgingly sell you them without the turntable, and they are sensational for the asking price. They are beautifully made, sound exquisite, very, very forgiving in terms of what you can attach it to and how it will perform. And it's this cartridge above almost anything else on the Alva that really elevates it from, that's a nice convenient turntable, to, oh, that's a nice convenient turntable that sounds really rather good. So that's what the basic package of that Cambridge Audio is offering you. And obviously the clue to where they've been on this is the TT V2. There was an original Alva TT. That is now defunct, and it's very, very similar. That had a different tone arm, which was developed in cooperation with Riga. Riga's very busy making Riga things these days, so Cambridge Audio has gone and sourced their own tone arm. It's actually very nice. It works perfectly well. I don't find there's any appreciable difference really in performance having tested the two. The other thing that they've done is they've paid attention to how you might choose to use your Alva TT. The original version, you had no choice but to use the phono stage that was built into the turntable. It couldn't be switched off or bypassed. They've corrected that in the V2. So if you have a decent phono stage in your amplifier, or you simply want to make use of an external phono stage, you now have the ability to do that in this new model. And it's a little thing, but it just gives you that little bit more stretch, a little bit more flexibility in how you choose to use it. In some ways, it makes it more Cambridge Audio, which, you know, I think is something that any company is seeking to do. And it just takes a good turntable, which the original version was, and it makes it better. It's one of those things where I'm a huge fan of vinyl. I make no secret of the fact. My social media abounds with them, but I'm not blind to the failings of it. And I'm not blind to just how much of a faff it can be. Cambridge Audio has done a very, very good job of reducing that faff to almost nothing. And it makes for a very, very impressive product, which also looks and feels like a Cambridge Audio product, rather than, you know, we make all of these things with Cambridge Audio on and here's a turntable in the corner. It feels homogenous and it feels part of their range. So, yeah, I was extremely impressed with it.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for that review, Ed. And if you would like to read the whole review, I will pop that in a link down below this video.